right, once again, you're locked and loaded right here on Panzer Unleashed. And this episode right here, this is not a call to chaos. This is not a call to illegal militias. And this is definitely not a call to form private armies or attack officials in any way. This is a call to strength, my friends. This is a call to discipline. This is a call to constitutional literacy in an age of emotional manipulation. And there's a difference between rage and resolve. You know, rage burns fast, and resolve builds nations. And you don't need permission to defend your life. You don't need approval to reject corruption, and you don't need a badge to stand upright. But you do need discipline. The founders wrote the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution because they understood human nature. Power concentrates, power corrupts, and power protects itself. A well-regulated militia does not mean a mob. It does not mean chaos, and it does not mean untrained knuckleheads screaming into the wind. Well-regulated means disciplined, structured, and accountable. Now, in this founding era, the militias meant capable citizens who could defend their communities if necessary. It did not mean freelance warlords. It didn't mean private armies roaming the streets. Prepared does not mean reckless. Prepared means trained in responsibility, period. And the Supreme Court affirmed in District of Columbia v. Heller that the right to keep and bear arms belongs to individuals for lawful purposes like self-defense. Lawful is the key word, my friends. And the Constitution does not authorize private paramilitary units to wage war against the government. And every state out there has laws restricting unauthorized armed groups operating as militia bodies. Angry men get baited easily. Angry men get infiltrated. And angry men get imprisoned. Disciplined citizens build power without walking into cages. If you want to stand against corruption, understand the real battlefield, my friends. It is courtrooms. It's in the ballot boxes. It's in public records. It's in grand juries. It's in investigative journalism, people. And like I said, it's in community organization. It is in lawful protest. It is jury duty. It's financial independence. And that's not soft. That is strategic. And if you want to protect your family, then train safely and legally. Learn firearm safety. You have to understand your state's self-defense laws. No one force is justified and when it destroys your life. Self-defense is legal. Recklessness is prison. So, the founders feared standing armies detached from the people, but they also feared mobs. So, strength without discipline becomes tyranny, wearing a different uniform. So, if you want to resist corporate elites, out-discipline them, outthink them, out-organize them. Corrupt officials fall when the evidence is documented, when the sunlight is applied, when legal pressure mounts, when communities unite, when elections shift, and when public trust erodes around them. They do not fall because five guys played soldier in the woods, okay? That's all fantasy bullshit. And fantasy feeds federal cases. Armed and prepared does not mean hunting politicians. It means refusing to be a victim at all cost. It means lawful self-defense, people. It means protecting your home within the boundaries of the law. It means refusing intimidation with calm resolve. Competent citizens understand constitutional law. They understand use of force statutes. They understand how corruption cases are built. They understand that the media narratives and local governance. If you want a republic that functions, build citizens who function. Not mobs, not chaos, not fantasies of insurrections, people, but prepared, disciplined, unbreakable, and lawful. And that is what terrifies corruption, because corruption thrives on ignorance. You don't need a war cry. You need resolve, people. So build, train responsibly, think strategically, and stay lawful. You have to stay sharp, because here on Panzer Unleashed, we're not preaching chaos. We preach strength with discipline, because rage is easy and republics are not. If you missed any episodes of Panzer Unleashed, we are everywhere. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and across independent platforms like Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey as well. Make sure to check us out. You can just search Panzer Unleashed and catch up on every episode. Once again, share the RSS feed as well and spread the signal. Once again, this is Scott Panzer Paulson reporting live here from Hack Studios on Cartel Corner in the dusty Arizona desert. Once again, over and out.